Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We'll go ahead and get things kicked off here on today's webinar. As a reminder, following today's webinar session, we will have a quick Q&A review to answer any of your questions that come in during the session today. Please feel free to use our question section of the GoToWebinar. Just to take a quick moment and introduce ourselves, my name is Zach Clark, and I'm joined by my counterpart, Mike Panici, who will be doing the bulk of the presentation today. Just to give a high-level look at the agenda today, we'll be opening things up with an overview of Pacejet, followed by going into details of the different e-commerce workflows and how Pacejet integrates. We will also be going through rate shopping for e-commerce users, WMS options for NetSuite Pacejet users, also how you can streamline your packing and shipping for e-commerce through Pacejet. And of course, we'll always like to wrap things up with a Q&A session that we hope you guys find educational. Now I'd like to pass the presentation over to my counterpart to start our branding of Pacejet.
Great. Thank you, Zach, and thank you to those attending our webinar today. I just want to take a quick moment and let you all know that on behalf of our Pacejet employees, we all wish you and your families the best and long life of health. With that said, I always like to just briefly start off with a slide pertaining to our branding of Pacejet, known as quote-unquote fully connected shipping. And we use this branding because our goal at Pacejet is to get our customers connected and in control of their shipping processes. One of the neat things about working for a company like Pacejet is that we do not just fit into one single area of the equation, being that of shipping, but we also can exist earlier in a warehouse workflow, for example, residing on an e-commerce platform for rating, which we'll talk about shortly. My point being is that we're constantly evolving our Pacejet software and increasing customer shipping efficiencies, reducing time and costs, while improving the customer experience overall. All of this adding up to give you as a Pacejet customer a competitive advantage in that of a competitive industry. So what I wanted to do, because we're talking about e-commerce workflows, I wanted to go ahead and for the next two slides, I want to show an actual workflow diagram. So that way everyone has a good 10,000 foot level view, if you will, of where Pacejet can actually come in, like the sections, the areas of the workflow that Pacejet can come in and add value. For example, starting on the left-hand side, an order that comes in through the consumer website, e-commerce, if you will. You have the Suite Commerce, Site Builder, NetSuite specific websites, but then you have non-NetSuite e-commerce websites such as Shopify, Magento, and others out there, where you can use either Pacejet's NetSuite built extension or a RESTful API for rate shopping. And then as those orders flow into the sales order within NetSuite, if a carrier or ship method has not been pre-selected, Pacejet has the ability to reside at the sales order level in NetSuite to allow a customer service or inside rep actually rate shop a given order if needs be. And then going into the picking, we have different things that we can do to work well with picking software. For example, if you're using NetSuite native picking or the NetSuite WMS, Pacejet works terrific with that, because Pacejet would handle the packing and shipping while you're using WMS software to handle picking. So you can see really any WMS software for picking is just fine, and then Pacejet can handle the packing and shipping, where our value add comes in the big orange box down here. Just a reminder, obviously we integrate off the item fulfillment record from a shipping execution standpoint, so we provide dynamic packing, whether that's scanning, scaling, our drag and drop tool, the automation of booking and tracking and generating those shipping documents, LTL documents, bills of lading, export documents, and so forth. So with that, we also obviously bring in reporting and analytics, and then automate the data back to the ERP for you. So again, I just wanted to show a 10,000 foot view level of an actual e-commerce workflow in the NetSuite environment itself, and the orange areas represent where Pacejet can actually come into play. Now, on the second workflow slide that I'm showing, it's very similar, but the difference in this slide, and this is going to be something that we're going to talk about during today's presentation, is everything stays the same except for the fact of the picking and packing. Packing seems to be the dotted line in the sand, so to speak, because there's integrations out there that Pacejet can integrate to enhance e-commerce workflows. For example, Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud and RF Smart for picking and packing. Both WMSs can be used for picking and packing, and Pacejet can integrate with both of those from just a shipping aspect. So you use those softwares to pick and pack, and then Pacejet does the shipping execution. So that, again, those are going to be some things that we're going to talk about during today's presentation. So I just wanted to show, again, a second workflow slide that gives everyone a view of how that would actually look from a certain standpoint of that stature. So moving on, I want to start off and focus on the value of choice that Pacejet offers in a given e-commerce workflow. Right now, especially with what is going on in the world, there's obviously a much higher rate of e-commerce purchase being commenced, while at the same time everyone is trying to hold on to their money because no one knows what is going to happen to the economy given the current conditions globally. So people want to be thrifty and be able to buy their products in a convenient and cost-efficient way, which has only increased the competitiveness in the e-commerce retail space. So if you do not have an e-commerce shopping platform that allows your customers to choose a carrier, class of service, and or cost, this could be a very good time to look at doing something in this realm. Right now, people are working from home, doing home improvements, so why not incorporate the ability to rate shop in your website for your customers and work on some website improvements or enhancements, if you will. So for those of you who are using a NetSuite branded e-commerce platform, such as Suite Commerce, Suite Commerce Advanced, or Site Builder, Pacejet actually has an extension built for you that is available for purchase that you can self-download into your website to provide rate shopping capability to your customers. Or if you do not want to use our self-download guide, Pacejet can help you implement and download the extension. This was developed with a partner of Pacejet's called Tavano Group, who specializes in the NetSuite e-commerce space. And quite frankly, they have an outstanding product and team. And with our development efforts together, we have a product that's very easy to use for our customer base. And not only does this extension work for Suite Commerce and Suite Commerce Advanced, but as I mentioned, it also works for the older NetSuite e-commerce called Site Builder. We would want to have a quick scoping call surrounding the Site Builder platform prior to quoting, just to ensure the required features are turned on to allow for our integration and extension to work. And if there are any customizations required to the extension, we could, of course, scope that out with the customer, Tavano, and Pacejet to get a tally on how many hours of work that need to be achieved there. Keep in mind, the Pacejet extension is just one option for our customers to choose from. If you want to lower your subscription costs, Pacejet does have a RESTful API license for rating that can be developed into your e-commerce platform. Customers typically use the REST API when they need the rate shopping capability in a non-NetSuite e-commerce like Magento, Shopify, etc. So keep in mind, our extension is not built for non-NetSuite e-commerce platforms. So you would take our REST API and develop it into your website to display whatever raw XML rate shop data that Pacejet returns to you in whatever fashion that you want. I do want to point out that this can be used for NetSuite e-commerce platforms as well. If a given customer wants to do their own development work as opposed to purchase our extension. So, think of RESTful API as e-commerce agnostic. because we offer so many different features that can improve the e-commerce process. I won't be showing demonstrations of the software today, given our time allotment. However, I did want to show some visuals so everyone has an idea of what we'd be looking at. As you can see here is a screenshot of the Pacejet extension itself for the NetSuite e-commerce platform. While we've hidden the data, obviously, on the screenshot, the goal here is to show you the fields we have developed that allow seamless rating to commence on the website. And again, this comes with a self-download, again, so you can do it yourself if you would like, and only pay the subscription for this tool, or as mentioned earlier, for a services fee, Pacejet can download and implement this for you. So these fields are already pre-developed from Pacejet. Here's another visual of our actual REST API itself for rate shopping. This carries its own unique license key, and as you can see on the lower right-hand side, there's raw XML data that will be returned from the carrier APIs, such as class, consignee, consignor costs, ship method, amongst a whole slug of other data that you can develop into your NetSuite or non-NetSuite e-commerce. And along with the subscription, Pacejet can quote a few hours of consulting if needed to answer questions pertaining to mapping, development, or anything else. So those consulting hours are available for purchase. And again, all that raw XML data would be returned via REST API. Okay, so as you all should recall, in going through the workflows earlier in the slides, I briefly went over the subject of WMS and how Pacejet integrates in a few different fashions surrounding the picking and packing. The packing really being the dotted line in the sand, so to speak, as to who does what from a software perspective. So I wanted to talk through different options that are used for NetSuite for a moment, with the first being RF Smart. We at Pacejet built an integration with RF Smart that allows a given customer to pick and pack with the RF Smart software and then rate and ship with Pacejet. Again, this is going back to the second workflow slide that we talked about earlier. The reason we built this is because we're seeing more and more that e-commerce shippers are requiring workflows where a warehouse representative walks over with a mobile scanner and picks and packs items off shelves and then right into the containers. That same representative then drops the packed box off at a shipping workstation and shoots out the label via Pacejet, or they hand it off for someone to quickly print a Pacejet ship label. Or maybe the shipper has a carrier and ship method already predetermined that flowed in from their e-commerce site using Pacejet's rate shopping API or extension. So using that same example, the representative picks and packs with RF Smart, and then since it's already packed and a carrier and ship method is predetermined, a flag can be set on the item fulfillment record to tell Pacejet to automatically ship the order, spit out the label immediately from the workstation printer, and have the data right back and update the ERP. And if it turns out that you don't want to have that label shoot out immediately, you can at least automatically, once that order goes into a stage status, the pack fulfillment can go to the Pacejet workbench automatically inside our user interface. And then you could just have a shipper quickly click and ship the fulfillment right off the workbench when convenient. So there are several different ways to accommodate this workflow and several different use cases for this. The key element and functionality here of this integration is, instead of Pacejet receiving items from the item fulfillment screen in NetSuite to pack inside Pacejet, instead Pacejet is receiving the packed containers from the item fulfillment. So that's the integration in itself. Another WMS option and integration for those with higher volume e-commerce shipping is the Oracle Management Cloud integration. And for those of you on the line, you might remember that NetSuite used to offer a product called WMS Advanced. And WMS Advanced ended up getting replaced by the Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud after the integration came to fruition from Oracle acquiring Logfire in 2016. So while Pacejet could integrate to WMS Advanced to receive packed data, just like our RF Smart integration, we realized that we had to redesign the integration to also accommodate Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud, since that was to be the new Oracle solution for high volume shipping. And again, the process flow is very similar to that, where Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud software is used to pick and pack and then pass those orders to Pacejet's shipping workbench to be staged, and then use Pacejet to ship at the appropriate time in just a few clicks, or even leverage our batch processing module right off our shipping workbench to ship a whole bunch of orders at once. And finally, another product I wanted to briefly discuss is the NetSuite WMS, formerly known as WMS Lite, and just briefly describe Pacejet's interaction with this software, because this is definitely, especially obviously given its NetSuite, probably the most common WMS that we see. And make a long story short, NetSuite WMS is a very, very sound solution used for mobile picking and packing, barcode scanning, cycle counts, and so forth. And Pacejet interacts very well with this software. In the typical workflow that we see, where NetSuite WMS and Pacejet are present, a shipper would pick the items using NetSuite WMS software, to which the item fulfillment in NetSuite would appear in a status of quote-unquote picked. From there, you can stage the fulfillment to Pacejet shipping workbench, go in and use our intelligent drag and drop, scan, scale to pack, and then ship the order. No overlap in how both softwares are used. So this is just another example of how someone can mobily pick, and then while in front or near a computer, pack and ship with Pacejet, with, of course, the option to rate. So I wanted to take a minute or two and go through the workflows, even after dissecting everything on the last slide, just so everyone has a clear understanding of the steps involved depending on which workflow you go with. I think it's important to show a visual of all the different screens and how that would occur. So again, just starting off at the RF Smart integration, you have a NetSuite sales order, which then when you go ahead and process that order, it goes to the picking screens, which is where RF Smart is integrated. And a given customer would have RF Smart's picking software and pack station software that they would use to pick and pack the given items off the shelf into the box. And then that goes into a quote-unquote packed status, as opposed to a pick status, because you're also packing an RF Smart. So then it becomes an item fulfillment and a packed status. And again, the integration is, instead of Pacejet receiving item content to pack in Pacejet, Pacejet would receive the packed containers right off the item fulfillment record. So when you open up Pacejet, the package section has already been completed and filled out, and the items are in their appropriate containers. So all that's left to do is to rate, assuming a carrier and ship method has not already been predetermined, rate and click ship in Pacejet. So that's our Smart integration. Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud, similar, but slightly different screens. So you have a sales order, and then you process that sales order. It then generates what's called in NetSuite, or Oracle NetSuite, a fulfillment request screen. Okay, so instead of an item fulfillment record right out of the gate, it becomes a fulfillment request screen. And then on that fulfillment request screen is where the Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud integrates to, aka the Logfire software that was acquired several years ago. So that's where the picking and packing via Oracle Warehouse Management Cloud would integrate off of, is that fulfillment request. So the warehouse representatives would would go through mass picking and packing, and then when they process that, those are in a packed status, and those orders then would go out to the Pacejet shipping workbench. That's where Pacejet comes into play. So it sends those to Pacejet shipping workbench. So that way you can mass ship off Pacejet. But at the same time that is sent to Pacejet, okay, it creates an item fulfillment record inside of NetSuite. And the reason that item fulfillment record is created at that given time is because Pacejet needs a screen to write the shipment data back to. So when you commence shipping in Pacejet, we're going to write all that shipment data, tracking the way it was packed and so forth. All that data is going to get written right back to the item fulfillment record that was created, representing those specific orders. So again, just like our standard NetSuite integration, the only difference is fulfillment request is a new screen involved in the process, and also the item fulfillment gets created a little bit later down the path than you would see in a typical WMS picking and then Pacejet packs and ships workflow. And then the NetSuite WMS, this again is the classic workflow we see, where you have a sales order, you process that, you use NetSuite WMS to pick, then it creates an item fulfillment record in a quote-unquote pick status, and then from there you can either stage it to the Pacejet shipping workbench automatically, or you can commence Pacejet right off the item fulfillment record, where you can go ahead and pack and ship the given order. So again, in this flow, the big difference between NetSuite WMS flow versus these other two are Pacejet is receiving item content from the item fulfillment record, and you pack and ship in Pacejet here. Over here on these two, Pacejet's receiving packed content, the containers themselves are already packaged. So the last features I wanted to show a couple of slides on is our scan packing and multi-level scan packing ability, which I've conducted webinars and demos on in the past. And I think this is a very important module to go over because of time savings involved for a shipper to be able to literally scan their entire way through Pacejet without ever touching the keyboard, while making sure that no human error occurs. So given the fact that e-commerce sales are erupting all over the world right now, a warehouse representative needs to ensure accuracy of all items in a box while having a streamlined way to quickly scan and ship the package. And this is a very user-friendly and easy module to use in that it uses audible feedback and stop-and-go visuals. And even after you are finished scanning with the Scan Pack module, you can use Pacejet shortcut barcodes to rate, ship, complete the transaction without, again, ever touching the keyboard. So while our scan packing module will be most popular for e-commerce workflows, given the majority of e-commerce is in fact small package, I did want to point out that we also have the ability to allow you to scan item content into containers and scan those containers on the pallets, during which time carton and pallet labels are printing off for every container and pallet you finish scanning. This is valuable for those retailers who are shipping in bulk to customers or other warehouses. This also does serial number capture as well. So for someone shipping serialized items like furniture or pharmaceuticals, for example, this multi-level packing could be a good fit for your processes. And keep in mind, you can also use the Scan Pack module within multi-level Scan Pack module. So just to recap, this module is a much more enhanced version of Scan Pack. Multi-level Scan Pack, you can use the standard Scan Pack within it. The difference, one of the key differences are obviously it's multi-level, but again, multi-level Scan Pack is our only Pacejet module that allows you to print off carton and pallet labels prior to actually shipping in Pacejet. So this is a great tool also for if you have a pallet stage and you want to generate labels and documents as you are staging the pallet and building the given pallet. For the e-commerce space, probably ScanPack will be the most popular, again, because e-commerce is mostly small package parcel, so that's scanning items into packages and then barcode shipping. And as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to show some visuals. So I wanted to show a screenshot, just show some differentiators between ScanPack and multi-level ScanPack, so that way everyone's aware of the options here. ScanPack, again, scanning items into boxes, or you can scan items on the pallets, either way. We also have grocery-style scanning, where you could have, those 9 subwoofers that you see on the screen. You actually could scan a barcode to allow you to have a quantity entered of 9, and then have all those items shoot over into a box at once, instead of having to individually scan a barcode 9 times. We also have ways to scan over pre-packed items as well. If an item's already packaged, you can just scan it once, and then it will be come over as its own box, if you will, on the right-hand side. Or again, you can scan the items individually as needed. So again, we look at this as single-level scanning. And then multi-level ScanPack is more complex in that you're scanning items into subcontainers known as boxes, and then scanning those boxes, once you close those out, onto the pallet on the right-hand side. So once that little box here in the bottom icon, once you finish closing that out, that's where a carton label can generate for you for that given carton. And then once you finish scanning and closing out this pallet, if you want to work on another pallet, that's fine. But in the meantime, a pallet label will generate for this given pallet. And we do have standard formats of that. Keep in mind, they're non-customizable. However, this module leverages our bartender integration. So if you have compliancy requirements on carton or pallet labels or any other documents, so to speak, whether that be UCC labels or whatnot, you can have that. You can purchase the bartender software, have those formats stored in bartender, and then as you're closing out containers and pallets here, that will trigger your bartender software to generate those specific customized documents that you require. So an excellent module that I wanted to point out. And by the way, again, I just want to say, if you have multi-level ScanPack, you can also use that for single-level scan packing within this module. You just would not choose a sub-container. So. And as I mentioned again, I've done with my counterpart, Zach, webinars on these different products. If anyone's interested on having individual websites to look at that are solely focused on those products. So if anyone's curious and watching these recorded videos, feel free to go to the following links on the screen to watch. And of course, please reach out to myself or Zach Clark with any questions.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I'm turning back over to you, Zach, for some Q&A.
Perfect. So we did actually have a couple questions come in. So Mike, I'm going to read these off to you. So the first question, does Pacejet offer an address validation for e-commerce websites?
Yeah, it does. And especially for e-commerce, I think address validation is very powerful, especially because first of all, as you all know out there, if you have any, first of all, let's start off by saying this. When consumers enter their addresses on the websites, it's not always accurate because human error happens. Okay, so if you don't have a mechanism that catches that flowing to a warehouse, a carrier representative will absolutely fee you for having a misspelling on an address, or if you don't instruct to the driver that it is a residence versus commercial, then that you will be charged. There will be a residential surcharge, I should say it that way. If you're shipping to a residence, there will be a residential surcharge present. So you need to have something that flags you to let you know it is a residence, so that way you can rate shop appropriately and understand what your costs are so you can pass along to your customer. With that said, the answer is yes. We have address validation for e-commerce, and quite frankly, it's a RESTful API. So you can take our address validation functionality and map it not only to your e-commerce, you can map it inside your ERP or any other software that you want. It is a unique RESTful API endpoint with its own unique license key. We recommend using, we have to choose a carrier authoritative database to do the validation against. We recommend FedEx's because it's the most robust. So our address validation API will provide standardization, parsing, validation, and residential detection. So you could map that and build that into your e-commerce website, so that way your customers can ensure that the addresses are correct upstream, so that way you don't burden a warehouse representative with that. Another option with that is you could also map that onto a sales order and have an inside sales or customer service rep verify all those coming through as well. And keep in mind, we also have a plugin for that inside the Pacejet user interface. I recommend going with the API so that way you can build it however you want, but we can absolutely accommodate that.
Perfect. The second question, does Pacejet have the ability to freight audit invoices for their e-commerce packages?
Right. So we have a freight audit reporting system that is specific to UPS and FedEx Parcel, which, as you know, are obviously the two most popular outside of Amazon main carriers out there. So we can absolutely accommodate a huge piece of that. What that means is you would download your invoices from UPS and FedEx and drag and drop them into our freight audit section within the Pacejet user interface. So you could drag and drop it right off your desktop. Pacejet will conduct an audit on it, meaning that we will identify if, first of all, the carrier charged the correct dollar amount based on what rates you received through Pacejet. If it does not, we will identify that for you. We also identify where extra fees came in on the freight audit report. We identify that from both an operational standpoint, say, if a representative didn't put enough packaging around the appropriate items, and the driver decided that a fee would be needed there, Pacejet will identify that. If they thought the scaled dimensions were off and there was a fee there, Pacejet will identify that. So it's a great tool to use from identifying warehouse operational issues, as well as keeping the carriers honest on what you're being charged. And it identifies residential surcharges and things like that. So it gives you a heads up of where you need to improve as a shipper or a warehouse operationally, so that way you can talk to a gentleman like Zach or myself to see if address validation, scale integration, things of that nature would be of help there. So that's our freight audit reporting in a nutshell.
Perfect. Last question. Does Pacejet have an integration with Amazon?
We do. It's with, think of Amazon. For those of you out there, Amazon, your orders are either coming from Seller Central or Vendor Central. Now, if your orders are coming from Seller Central, most likely that's because you're part of the Seller Fulfilled Prime program by Amazon, meaning that you warehouse your product and you ship it out to your customers. If the orders are under the Seller Fulfilled or Seller Central umbrella, Pacejet can accommodate shipping those. What that means is an order comes in through the Amazon. Now, whether you've used a Celigo connector or some other connecting software, you have chances are you have those Amazon orders dumped from Amazon into your NetSuite and turn into a sales order. as the orders go through the typical workflow, they eventually make it to Pacejet, which is where you would, ship. Now, for Pacejet to integrate, we typically want you to pass Pacejet the shipping ID number from Amazon that would dump in from Amazon Seller Central to your NetSuite. So you'll pass that shipping ID number to Pacejet along with all the other order details, just like you typically would in a Pacejet workflow. And then Pacejet will generate the Amazon shipping compliance label for that order, because we have that shipment ID referenced and we're communicating to the Amazon API. We almost treat them like they're a 3PL carrier in a way. So if you were to rate shop via Amazon and Pacejet, it would say Amazon-UPS ground, Amazon-UPS second day, Amazon-USPS, etc. And if it's already been predetermined as to what Amazon carrier and ship method has been pre-selected or that will be shipping out, fine, not a problem. Now it'll just flow into Pacejet, and then you'll just use Pacejet to ship, and we'll generate the shipping compliance label for that. And then, of course, we'll write the shipment data back to the NetSuite ERP. So we absolutely have an integration for Amazon as long as the orders come from Seller Central. Vendor Central, chances are it's fulfilled by Amazon, meaning they warehouse the product. And if it's a Vendor Central order, we cannot accommodate that at a given time, possibly down the path. But at the present time, we do not offer integration there.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. All right, guys. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. Please feel free to reach out to Mike or I at customersuccess@pacejet.com if you have any additional questions. Also, if you want to stay up to date, please follow us on social media or our blog that's listed below. Thanks, and everybody stay safe.